Episode 31. Holy shit, guys. You know that it's a big deal, like that you're really starting to do well with this kind of thing when you start hitting numbers that you couldn't count to. Oh shit, guys, I'm so excited. I have a dear old friend on the show today. We've literally known each other for like 20 years. So this is absolutely awesome. And of course, she's a writer, and we didn't we kind of we've written together, but our paths are separate as well. So I'm very excited to learn with you guys all about how she got to where she got and what she's been doing. All right. Oh, dude, my boy Brian. So good to see you, homie. Man, it's never a show without you, dude. I'm so glad you're here. Everybody, YouTube, wherever you are, shout us out, say hi. If you guys have any questions as we're going, please, this is very interactive. I want to have lots of fun. I want our guests to have lots of fun. So you guys feel free to chat amongst yourselves, but also chat with us. You can ask questions. I'll throw them up here just like I did with Brian. Any other comments or whatever, they'll all come on here. You guys were waiting for this. That's great. Our numbers are already going up. Everybody's happening. Cool. You know what, man? I don't even know that I need to worry about fucking around. Why don't we just start and have a good old show? Sound good? Let's do it, guys.
Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool. Then I'm going to keep saying fuck because I care.
Kaitlin, what's going on?
Hey, nothing. How are you?
I'm great. What's up, Alfie? Glad to hear you, buddy. Dude, you and I, the last time we saw each other, I believe it was at that fucking first aid course in Newmarket.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I was thinking right before you went to Texas, but yeah, I think that was. I don't know actually.
Oh,
remember when we got together? Oh,
vaguely.
Hey, Wendy.
Vaguely.
There was a lot of alcohol, a lot of like fun times. Yeah.
We did have really good times. We really did. And so, guys, just so you're aware, I know Kaitlin. First off, she's an accomplished author herself. How many books do you have out and published so far?
There's 3 out and published, and 1 in the works for January 2020 or 2022. Oh my god, I can't believe it's 2022. Anyway, and I'm hoping to get 1 out before October this year. So
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So what is neat is that Kaitlin and I have known each other for almost 20 years. Not to age either of us. I've got the gray though, so who's aging who, right?
Yeah, don't have that quite yet.
Lucky lady, very lucky lady. But Wendy and I, we had this online role-playing game that was done all by text, and it was called Visible Dreams. And Kaitlin was a part of it, and we loved, writing with her and all that kind of stuff. And then when it kind of went its own way, I guess you just didn't stop. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your path and where things went after that?
Yeah. So I always knew I wanted to be a writer. Even before Visible Dreams, I would write poetry in that. And actually, the very first book I ever wrote was kind of like an R.L. Stein ripoff. I was like 11, and I remember reading this story about this vampire, and it was literally like the same story I wrote, but of course, it was only like 10,000 words. Anyway, yeah.
10,000 is a lot, though, for like 12.
It is, yeah. It felt like a lot, and I was so proud of it. I can't find it anymore, thank God. Thank God. I don't know.
Right.
And then, I met you, and I kind of got into Visible Dreams, and I was like, hey, this is something that I can do. And I'd never done anything like that before, like a live action, role playing. I would write something, and then my moderator would be like, oh, but then this happened. And I'm like, well, that's not, that wasn't in the plan, So it was good that way. It was, it really helped grow my craft, I think, like interacting with people that way. And just kind of like, getting used to the curveballs. And then from there, I stopped writing for a bit. I did during college. I thought, I don't know, like I just got really busy and I was sort of focusing on my career more. Um, and then when things sort of got settled down, like it rekindled for me. I got into a story that I really liked, and I was like, well, what happens after? Because, well, here's my cat. Sorry, interloper. Um, and I didn't know, like, I really wanted to know what happened after, and the author hadn't produced anything. And I was like, well, why don't I just write my own ending? And so I did, and then like the rest is all just history. Like I just got sucked totally into it, and like
It was funny. I remember when you, I believe your first novel was The Abolition of Caden Hale.
Yes, you're right.
So when you got into that, I started kind of following you on Twitter, and I realized you, from what I saw, and please feel free to correct me, but I guess you did a lot of writing on like forums and all that. Was it like fan
Yeah.
sites or?
Yeah, like I started a lot with like fan fiction and like Archive of Our Own, Wattpad. So I met a lot of really awesome people there actually that really helped me hone my craft and sort of like find my own voice. Because when I first started, I don't even know what I was trying to write. It was awful.
That's so like, it's such a different path, and
Yeah.
there's, I want you to understand, like, there's zero disrespect. I honestly, I don't know that world at all, and
Mhm.
it's so funny. I've heard it multiple times where people are like, yeah, I got into it via fan, fan writing and fan casting and stuff,
Yeah.
and that's how I found my voice. And I'm like, you found your voice by working on other people's stuff? Like, that's so
It
foreign to
does
me,
sound really like counterintuitive, doesn't it?
right?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is like I was kind of leaning one way anyway with the story, and they're like, oh, well, this person doesn't act like this. And I'm like, well, it shows what you know because I think they do. And then, like, it was a lot of like railing against like those kinds of interactions. Yeah, I'm still an asshole.
I love that. That's one
Yeah.
of my favorite things about you. Assholes tend to attract one another.
It's true.
So why don't you? Because a lot of times I'm talking to comic creators and whatnot. You are primarily a novelist, and it's so funny. I've told this multiple times, but like, I had to write. I wrote a bunch of comics and worked on a bunch of comics, and I was a writer. But my
Mhm.
family didn't recognize me as an author until I
Yeah.
had the book.
Isn't that
Did
strange?
you? How did your family kind of look at it, or is it like she's an author? Or is it like, she's doing this thing?
They've been really supportive in that they've purchased my books and they convince all their friends and all their coworkers to purchase my books as well. I don't know actually if they go around and they're like, oh yeah, my daughter's an author. Maybe they do. I hope they do.
I know, right? Let's pretend they
Yeah.
do. That's
Yeah.
that's my fan writing is,
They
is
they
that they do.
probably do. They probably do.
I remember your
It's
dad. He was a really
better.
cool. He seemed like a really cool, supportive dude.
He is super cool and supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's bought a bunch of my books and he's like, oh, I'm gonna give this to this friend, and this to this friend. Cool,
That's
Dad. I'll just sign my name and you can be my dealer here.
So yeah, right, dude. That's the
Yeah.
way to go.
Mhm.
So what was the moment where you went from I'm enjoying writing on these forums to I've had enough. It's time for Kaitlin Corvus to come out. What was that moment like?
Um, I've already, that's not the word I wanted. I have always written like alternative universes. Um, and all of my writing is all very like it doesn't follow the plot line of any of the fan fictions I ever wrote about or fan stuff I ever wrote out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. It was never actually fan fiction in my mind, you know? Like I was always writing and the names were always the same, but it was never actually set in the universe. So for me, it was never really, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
For an author,
no, that's
I'm losing my words.
no, that's a really neat way to look at it. I never would have seen it like that. So I love that you're able to kind of, yeah, you have a very different take, because of course me, I think I would feel almost forced or chained to kind of, well,
Mhm.
this character acts like this, so I have to do that and all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
corporate writing,
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Yeah, I don't think I could ever be like a ghostwriter for
Yeah.
someone or like, like that. I don't know. I was just talking to my husband about that and I was like, I don't think I could ever do that.
Well, I mean, it's important to know what you can and can't do. So
Yeah.
fuck all those other people's worlds. What about yours? Is all of your work so far in one world?
I have a lot of work out there, Tyler.
I mean, your published novels.
My
Sorry.
published
Yes.
novels. No.
Okay.
I have one short story right now called Girls Like Us that is a contemporary fiction thriller horror thing. It's
You
really
know it's
dark
good when
actually. I
it's
love it.
it's good when it has no genre. It's like
I
it's
know, yeah.
all this mishmash. That's when the good shit shows up.
Yeah. So it's actually like a prelude. It's a part one of the 7-part series that I wrote that like it really got away from me, to be honest. I wrote this one short. It's like 7,000 words, honestly. And then I wrote like 6 more 40,000 word stories after it, all about different characters, all in the same universe. It was all contemporary horror,
Hmm.
and it all sort of revolved around this one event, but like very separately. Like yeah, it just tied in, and like I couldn't leave it alone.
I love that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
do you have a main universe though? So, I guess.
I do, yeah. The abolition of Caden Hill and the reformation of Linea Hill take place in a fantasy realm called Mannell. Um, and essentially, in it, there are mages that work for consulting firms, and
Oh,
yeah, and they all sort of compete with each other, um, and they just take on like these different jobs. Like, yeah, I loved it a lot. There's
no, that
mermaids.
there's a mermaid.
There are lots of mermaids in a place called Scarlet Lake, which is this red bioluminescent lake that's full of poison water, and the mermaids are spooky and beautiful, and I love them.
So your education, because you're now, I don't know your field. What would you call that exactly?
I am a fish and wildlife technician by trade,
Okay.
so I am an environmental technician.
Okay. Yeah,
Disclose.
environmental technician sounds good.
Yeah,
How much of that goes into your work? I would assume, especially in fantasy, you probably get to play an awful lot.
loads, loads and
Yeah.
loads. Yeah, I focus mostly on on bugs. I'm a taxonomist as well. So when I was at work, because I work now for the LCBO, but when I worked for the Conservation Authority, I would actually go to streams and kick in the streams and find all the aquatic bugs, and then I would take them back to the lab and I would identify them. And it was pretty awesome to put them under the microscope and see like all the little details that you wouldn't normally be able to. And I find like I really try to incorporate that in my, because I have a lot of magical creatures, a lot of villains that shapeshift and that. And yeah.
Do you find yourself even using characteristics that you use or that you see in nature and whatnot, for magic, or for some of your other, say, races and whatnot? Like, oh, they have I don't know, a thorax, or I don't know, fuck, I don't know.
That was pretty good. What's the
Thanks.
thorax? Yeah, definitely, definitely. My magic system is all elemental based. So it's all, earth, air, fire, water, spirit, because I have shapeshifters. And they change like basically into animals. They don't do anything super weird.
That's badass. What do we have? Justin Ori said, first fantasy book series I read was The Sword of Truth by Terry Goodkind. But that's so. Thank you. That's cool. I never really got into that one, but that would make me question you and say, what series or whatever got you into fantasy?
Right off the bat, I can say R.A. Salvatore.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure you remember me going on and on and on about the Disc series. It was like my jam. I was totally immersed in it when I was a kid.
You know what? It's funny. He and I actually wanted to check out some of his stuff. Didn't he work on Drista Warden? Am I wrong in that one?
Yeah. That was him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he ended up doing a video game with a couple of other people.
Mm-hmm.
It was
I
a
do
fantasy.
know that actually.
Did you play it?
Mm-mm.
Not,
I did not.
great.
No.
Great.
Oh,
No,
that's so disappointing.
I know, because I was thinking of you when that name came up, and I was like, oh, okay. And I think there was a couple other people, like Todd McFarlane. I don't remember all the names, but there was a couple of really big names, and I was like, oh, all right, I'm gonna check this out. And it was about fae fairies, which again I love fairies, especially like different types, dark and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna check this out. It was very formulaic, and it was like just so anti RPG. I was like, what the fuck? So I think like RA probably built this beautiful world, and then some asshole was like, okay, I'm gonna make a story, and they probably weren't a fantasy writer.
Yeah, just had to get it out. So
right?
Wizards of the Coast actually approached him recently. I know because I reread the very first series books very, very recently. Anyway, so they approached him and they got him to write a lullaby. It was actually pretty cool, and they animated it. It was really awesome.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was all modern and yeah.
Well, so and actually going back, that was a question I was going to ask you, because you were talking about your mages working as consultants. Is this a medieval fantasy, or is this more of an urban fantasy?
Like, it's a bit of both, like Industrial Revolution age.
Oh.
Yeah, a little bit.
So like a diesel punk sort of thing or whatever?
Yeah, kinda, yeah. Yeah, there are some cars, very few and far between. There are tin cans.
Okay.
There are also swords, so
I love that. Okay. Yeah, it's so easy for us to kind of jump into the regular, cool, it's fantasy. It's medieval. All right, great. I already know where I'm going. So it's fun when you get to go, no, man, I have this shot at my own world. What do I want? What do I not want? What am I going to play with? What am I not going to play with? I think that's absolutely great. Wendy has a big one. Do you have a process you follow in writing your stories? Like, do you first write out an outline, then begin writing, or do you write off the cuff? So basically, are you a planner or a pantser? Yeah.
I'm a pantser. I am a filthy pantser. Sometimes I outline very, very loosely. Like I'll start. Usually, most of my ideas come from song lyrics. To be honest, a new song will come across my dash, and I'll be like, "Oh my god, this is super cool!" And then there'll be one line that I'm like, "Wow!" And then like an entire world is just kind of birthed around that one line. It's a super weird process. But I'll hyperfixate on that, and then like these characters just kind of pop out, and I'm like, oh, that's this situation, and then the world just kind of builds around that. So sometimes I outline. I never follow my outline. Almost never. It's usually a big waste of time for me. I don't know why I do it, and then I look back and I'm like, why did I write that? That's garbage. Like this outline's terrible. Yeah, no, I'm a pantser.
Do you? And that's fine, man. You got to do it your way. Do you find as a pantser you have to edit a lot more? than
No,
if you were a planner? No, really.
no. I usually end up adding scenes. I never in the abolition. So when I first started writing, I should back up. When I first started writing, I was an overwriter. I'm still sort of an overwriter. Um, so like I added a lot of stuff that I didn't really need to because I didn't quite understand how to piece together a story and how to like make it flow, right? So there was an underlying story beneath that, like a current that I should have followed, and I just kind of branched off everywhere. And when I was editing the abolition, like I cut out an entire story from the abolition. Like when I was finished the first draft, it was 280,000 words. Now
Whoa.
it's 94,000.
Okay.
Like I cut a lot, like
Yeah.
probably 3 stories actually.
I mean, you
So
you literally cut it into a third.
yeah, yeah, and it's a lot better now for what it is. But that was a my cat. That was a really good learning experience. I find now I don't overwrite as much. Um, Usually I will add scenes, like sometimes the pacing will be a little bit fast, so I'll have to add something to kind of slow it down and smooth it out. That's usually the most I have to do.
Yeah.
And that's like 5,000 words, 10,000
Right.
words. I'm never spending tons of time on it though. Mhm.
Dave Galliano's asking, what are you drinking? I'm drinking Corona. What
I'm
are you drinking
drinking
today?
Writer's Tears.
I've
It's a
never had that.
whiskey called Writer's Tears. It's really good, actually. When I released
Is
the
it?
Reformation, yeah, my husband purchased it for me. It's an Irish whiskey.
See, I'm a big whiskey guy, and then having that too, that's all right, cool. I'm gonna have to pick that
Yeah,
one up then.
it's
We
really
have
good.
someone else. Yeah, we have someone else who's an R.A. Salvatore fan. That was the first fantasy book they read. I've had this issue before. I gotta ask you this: have you ever read something before, like especially fantasy, and you get into it and you go, "Oh, I see what's going on. You don't actually
Oh
like
my God.
fantasy. You've just decided you want to read fantasy or write fantasy." Have
Yeah,
you?
yeah. Yes. I
Non-fantasy people
find
don't get it.
no, it's true. I find now as well, like I'm really critical when I read a book. Like I'm really critical. And
No.
it can be a great book, but then they drop the ending. Like they drop a ball at the ending, and I'm like,
Oh, dude.
oh, this is over for me.
hmm No, I
Yeah.
totally feel you, and I can't
Hmm.
tell you how often when I'm editing someone else's work, it's always the ending where I'm like, you lost me.
You
Like really,
have
I'm
to
like,
nail the
yeah, we gotta.
ending.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ending's the most important part. If it's
Well,
not the very first paragraph, the ending's the most important part.
well, I mean, it very much is, especially for us because the ending feels like that was the point. This is why I
Hmm.
wrote it for this
Yeah.
thing right here, which is why I never understand pantsers.
Yeah.
For me,
I
because
usually
I
start with
already.
the end, okay?
Oh, okay. Oh, see, that's
Yeah.
something I wouldn't have known. Okay. So you
Sometimes.
usually,
Mostly. I mostly do.
already know what your ending is, and then you kind of write
Yeah.
backwards or
Work
towards
around
it.
it. Yeah. Towards it, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so. I never would have thought that. I no,
You should try it
seriously.
one day. It's great. It's very cathartic.
You know what? In all honesty, a year ago I would have said fuck no. But now actually I'm very interested. Like now I've been reading a lot of books, a lot more books on writing and whatnot, and there's been a
Mhm.
lot of writers who have come out and said, look, just because that you found the way that you're comfortable doesn't mean that
Mhm.
you shouldn't still now and then get uncomfortable in order to
That's true.
really get into what you're doing and really kind of figure
Yeah.
out other paths and other ways of telling stories. So, yeah, man. I had a story a while back where I had to do a comic that was completely silent, and I had to write it in
Ooh.
like 6
How was
hours, and that
that?
was, dude, it went really well. I'm super proud of it.
Wow.
I
Awesome.
literally wrote it like overnight. Like, you know what? We're having a good time here. I'll be honest. Basically, I got told, yeah, you need to do this. This needs to happen, and then we need to start art. And I was like, okay, I'll have it done tonight. And I literally hit the pipe, smoked right there and then, and just went. Because I thought my brain can go fucking insane. I can just completely write whatever crazy shit. And then by the time I'm kind of coming down and getting sober, I can go back over it and go, all right, how do I turn this into something that makes
That's
sense?
hilarious. The only time I've ever smoked a joint and then written anything, I was halfway through a story. I got high. It was actually Christmas Eve. I had a brownie, and I got really fucking high. I don't smoke pot. I don't eat pot like usually. But I did this one time, and I tried to write something, and I was so tired, and I just hyperfixated on this one sentence. And the next morning, I came over and I read it, and I was like, that was really fucking good. Like, it's so much better than every other part of that story. It still stands out. I don't know. Maybe I should just cut it out or something. Like, it sticks out like a sore thumb because it's so good, and the rest of the story is like, I don't know.
Now you're gonna feel like, man, every chapter I have to get high. Holy shit!
Yeah, I have to make this entire story as polished as this one sentence. It's brutal.
I had to create a rule for myself, and that is, I don't tend to smoke too much when I'm writing, but I absolutely will not smoke or drink when I'm working on somebody else's stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, which I feel like that just makes sense. And that way, if it sucks, like if my changes and ideas suck, I can at least stand by them and go, no, I was of sound mind.
Yeah, for sure.
I just wasn't in the game, and I can own that. I don't want to have the excuse of, well, I was pretty fucking baked. I don't want to use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a great. Brian Mannell is a super fan on the show, and he always has the best questions. I haven't even read this yet. As soon as I see a Brian Mannell question, I throw it up right away. Do you feel limitations for a fantasy enrich the rules of the world and the story? How do you decide what kind of limitations to place on your world, and when do you feel you have enough limitations?
You mean like balance to the magic system? Is that
probably, or even races or political? I'm sure it's just an all-encompassing thing.
There's a lot of discontent in my story between magic users and non-magic users, as I can imagine, and I hope everyone else can after reading my story, is that the non-magic users feel kind of threatened by the magic users. Like, they're at a disadvantage always. You have these super powerful mages, and like there's a mages council that basically like runs the government and has a foot in with the king, and yeah, so I do have like what am I trying to say here? So I do put governors on the magic users in that they are all powerful. Like, they do run out of magic. My shapeshifter can't stay in her animal form for longer than a few minutes unless she's using what I have dubbed as her spirit animal, which is the animal that she's connected with the most. In Madeline's case, that's the bear. So she can stay as a bear for 40 minutes. But beyond that, like, she runs out of magic. So the magic is very powerful in my world, but it's not without its fault.
Yeah. No, smart, and that's necessary. I totally feel you. Yeah. Wendy says exactly. We know where we want to end up. Then we just have to figure out how we're going to get there. Because Wendy well is.
She gets it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's a pantser. Oh yeah. I can't tell you how many times in Visible Dreams she would be like, "Hey, so," because the difference with something like Visible Dreams, just so you guys are aware, like the difference between these role playing games was that this was something that was going to be ongoing. So you weren't usually thinking of an end necessarily. I tended to try to think of at least have an idea of where I wanted it to go. But the thing is that as much as you think a moderator is in charge, a player can completely wrench your plans.
For
So
sure.
you,
That's
yeah.
too.
So you didn't want to plan too hard, but I tried to have, a couple ideas kind of up my sleeve and ready to go. But Wendy would just pants it out. And I remember she had this thread she was doing that went on for, oh Lord, I mean, maybe a year, like just at least
Oh my
6
God.
months plus. Yeah, it went on for a long time. And it was this long exploration of the continent and whatnot that they had recently landed upon. And she finally came to me and she goes, I don't know where the hell we're going. I was like, what do you mean? Like, she's like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, whoa, what's happened so far? So now I have to like find out what things have happened and how can we use those things to lead towards something. And it was she's delightful, but yeah, as a pantser, it's one of those things where she's had to learn you need an ending. We need to know where we're going.
That's
So
true.
I think your strategy is a very good one, actually. I'm going to attempt that at some point.
You say that, but you can't see the top of my laptop with all my sticky notes. Honestly,
See,
like, there's not a free surface without a sticky note about some story.
so
And
there
there's like 4 different stories up here.
so there is planning going on.
Yeah, like loose planning. An idea will pop up into my head, and I'll be like, "Oh, that's super sweet," and I'll jot it down, and I'll forget about it for a couple of weeks, and I'll come back to it.
So here's something. You and I, we enjoyed a lot of the same music.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's been a while. It's been at least 10. It's been about 10 years or so. But we enjoyed a lot of the same music. Are you still into metal?
I am.
Okay, cool. So what bands are really exciting you lyrically recently? Holy crap, my dog.
Is that a dog? So mostly, I've been on the metal side of things. The thing that I've been listening to the most is probably In This Moment, which is a really wicked
Yeah.
female. Yeah, you know them? Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
really awesome. I also am super into the Pretty Reckless. I'm not sure if you can call them metal, but they are
Hard
hard
rock.
rock. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. And let's see, what else is my go-to? Kaitlin. I don't know if you know her. She's like an alternative rock.
Oh, not as much. No.
No, yeah. Um, and
It's
then
funny.
on the opposite end of the spectrum is Lana Del Rey. I've listened to her like heinous so much. My husband knows all the lyrics because I listen to it so much, and he doesn't even like the music. I feel bad for him.
That's funny. In This Moment is one of those bands that when I was trying to get my kids into metal, especially my
Yep.
daughters, In This Moment was one of those bands. In This Moment, OTEP,
Yeah.
bands like that were very strong female leaders where I could
Yep.
be like, this is not, it does not have to be a male dominated music
Yeah.
scene. And it was
Yeah.
something that I really tried to kind of get the girls excited by and just be like, dude, there's so many amazing women doing fucking fantastic stuff. It's not just a boys' party. So I'm really
sure.
glad to hear you waving that flag because, yeah, there's a ton of really amazing females in
Absolutely.
the metal spectrum. Yeah,
I forgot her
absolutely.
name, Marie or something, but she was wicked
For which?
In This Moment.
Oh, isn't that Maria Brink?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Maria
Okay.
Brink. It was close.
Yeah, no, she's cool.
Maria.
She did she actually did a song with who the hell was it? Papa Roach. That was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. She did a couple covers too. She did a cover of In the Air Tonight, which was
Really?
really awesome. Yeah, it's off her. Which album is that? Rituals.
Okay. Have you gotten
Yeah,
into
which
OTEP at all?
I feel like I listened to a few of their songs in high school, but no.
She has a cover of Lord's Royals.
Okay. Oh, I like
Yeah.
that.
I would check that out. That is a fucking badass track. So
Yeah.
I would, yeah. If you want to get into another female, she's very LGBTQ centric. She's lesbian, but she's just very strong in that community and whatnot, and
Awesome.
amazing to listen to. And obviously, having kids who are LGBTQ, that's another great thing where I'm like, dude, check her out. Like, she's so positive towards that community and whatnot, but also just as a incredibly strong woman. And then that cover is just fucking killer. It's so good. And I'm not a Lord fan. That's not necessarily where I would go down, and I wouldn't bash it, but it's just not what I would listen to. But her cover made me appreciate it and be able to go and listen to the original and go, okay, cool. I see what you're doing. I get all this. I understand why they get it. So yeah, man, it's the same as like when
Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, then
yeah.
check that one out.
I found as I get older, like my music spectrum has really broadened. Like when I was a kid, it was like Marilyn Manson, 9 Inch Nails, and that was it. Like that was it.
Mine actually shrunk. Like mine,
Oh,
it was just like metal, like just fucking hyper laser focused. What I did find is that I was able to, like, whereas when I was younger, I would back talking bullshit about a lot of other music styles.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like I've grown to the point where I'm like, I can appreciate this musically. It's not for me. I think for me, metal is just one of those things where, to me, it's passionate. Like every time I hear it, I can hear the passion. It never feels fake to me, and I think that's why I always come back to it. And that's not calling anything else fake. It's just all too often I'll listen to something pop, and I have to go.
Yeah, I feel like
that way.
This is really generalizing, and I hate to do it, but I think a lot of pop stars make the music they make to sell. Like I think a lot of them, like look at Taylor Swift. When she started, she was country, and then she moved to pop, and she's so much more popular now, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of think that a lot of them just make the music to get out there to make the sales.
Did you know? So going along that route, and I know this is like way off topic, but Jewel.
Yeah.
Jewel was actually studying to be an opera singer.
Oh.
And and so when she was speaking to one of her teachers, she said, you know, how long does it take for you to become famous as an opera singer? And they're like, oh, there's no such thing as a super famous young opera singer. You have to age with it and really work at it. It's going to be a decade. And she was like, oh, cool. I'm going to go learn guitar. And like an album or two later, she's fucking top of the charts and everybody knows who she is. And welcome to the 90s. It's Jewel.
Yeah, fantastic.
So she knew what she wanted. Good for her.
Yeah. I mean, if that's what you want to do, Lady Gaga did the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah, there's lots of people like that.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian Mannell is going to bring us back. Does knowing where you want to end up sometimes change the more you write the story?
Yes. Yeah. I feel like my stories they're pretty dynamic. The writing process is very dynamic for me. I wrote a story called The Long Way Down, and one of my friends was really, really awesome and edited it for me. When I first started writing it, the ending, it was pretty dark, I will say. It's still dark now, but I did change it, and I don't think I changed it for the lesser. Like I still think it's a great story, but it just wasn't really what I had envisioned when I first started. But like my story definitely does like morph around the ending for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I got a message at the exact same time you were saying that, but I did hear you. No, that's cool. So you were talking about a friend who was helping you. Do you get a lot of help like with editing and whatnot, or is that still a fairly singular?
Finding a good beta reader is really difficult.
Mm.
It is really, really, really difficult. And Tara is one of those people that, she really believes in me and she believes in my writing. She loves what I produce, but she's also really brutally honest. And I find that is so important in a beta reader. And there's only like a few people that I think I would respect enough to kind of like, dry my tears and be like, yeah, okay, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, so I don't have a lot of beta readers.
Yeah.
A lot of the editing is myself, and I read aloud to my husband, and he is also one of those people that's brutally honest with me. He does read a lot of like different stories though. He's a big Douglas Adams fan, which sounds like maybe it might clash with my genre, but I think that the outside opinion of someone that doesn't submerge themselves in my genre is really important.
Well, and it's so funny because people tend to like fantasy and sci-fi. People tend to kind of treat them as like these dueling, like dueling heads sort of things. But I actually find that a lot of, especially sci-fi, has fantasy in it. I mean, I would actually say that Douglas Adams has a fair amount of fantasy, right?
Yeah.
Was it Star Wars?
I'm gonna rock the boat here and say I hate Star Wars.
That's okay. Yeah. That's okay. I respect that opinion.
In some circles,
right? I'm a fan, but I've also gone to the point in my life where I'm like, you have the right to hate something. I'm okay with that.
You know what? Actually, I really loved Rogue One. I really did love Rogue One. Yeah, and I did watch The Mandalorian, and I liked that too.
Okay.
So I can't say that I don't like Star Wars completely. I do.
It was just those main the Skywalker saga,
like episodes.
As it is. Yeah,
it was not good. Yeah.
So
I don't know what it was. Maybe they didn't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Kyron said many musicians say they can't create music without getting high.
That's true.
Yeah, and now here we are talking about writing while messed up too. So.
Yeah, I heard.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say I hear a lot of different arguments from different authors. Some people write only when they're drunk, and then Laurel K. Hamilton, who writes fantasy horror, I'll call it fantasy horror, says that she never touches alcohol when she writes. Wow. So it's interesting, different approaches.
Brian Mannell.
When I write.
Yeah, I know, right? If I want to drink, I'm going to do it, but I usually don't. I think it's not usually something I think about though. I just don't. Brian says I listened to some of Lana. She's really good, but I only really listened to her album Ultraviolence, and this is from a metalhead as well.
Ultraviolence was a great album. It's probably her best. Also Born to Die. I listened to a lot of her unreleased songs. That's how much of a millennial I am. Her unreleased stuff I find is darker and a little more raw, and I really appreciate that in my music. Yeah. So, yeah.
Alan Ellsworth came in. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Fellow comic creator. He's creating his own book right now, and he's doing a bunch of coloring. He's actually coloring Wendy's book, Viscarian Tales.
Ooh,
so yeah, that's pretty great. Yeah. Sam Bobby came in. Primitive Radio Gods is a favorite for us besides Nirvana. That's another good one.
Okay.
I'm glad that we got so far into music.
Right.
9 Inch Nails is life. It is, yeah. That's something important when we're talking about our writing. I think you and I are both very much influenced by music when we're writing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. For sure.
How do you feel about 9 Inch Nails?
How do I feel about 9 Inch Nails? I love it.
Yeah.
I love them. Yeah.
We actually got to see them live a couple years ago, and holy shit.
Did you? I tried to get tickets to go see them, and it sold out like immediately. Yeah. It was back in the days of Ticketmaster, like when you would stand outside. Yeah. And you'd try to like go in and get your ticket, and then you'd get up to the desk and it'd be like, yeah, sorry, we're sold out.
Pre-internet.
Yeah.
Ugh, yeah, no, I feel you. Do you have any favorite fantasy pets?
Favorite fantasy pet. So I'm really partial to Harry Potter's owl.
Oh, okay.
Hedwig? Yeah, Hedwig.
Yeah.
There we go. Hedwig. That's it. It's been a while since I've read those books. But if I had to have a familiar, it would be fucking owl. Oh
Okay.
my god, who's messaging me? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so for me, I can't really think of off the top of my head fantasy pets that excited me, but in X-Men, Kitty Pryde had a pet like baby dragon.
Ooh.
Yeah, his name was Lockheed, and he
Yeah.
was so much fun. And he was like an alien, and he most
Mhm.
resembled a dragon. And so, yeah, he was pretty great, and I loved that character and always wanted to know more about him. Never got to know as much as I could, but yeah,
I guess the dragons from Game of Thrones were pretty badass too.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and they went from pets to not fucking
Yeah,
pets
to
at all.
not.
How,
Yeah.
as a writer, how did you feel about that ending?
Game of Thrones? Spoiler alert, I haven't watched it all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. Yeah. And because I started reading the books and I fell in love with the books. I got to the fourth one. That's the one with ravens, right? A Feast for Ravens, or
Probably.
Feast for Ravens. Yeah, I think it's called that. Anyway, that was years ago, and then George R. R. Martin just never caught up with the show, and I'm a pretty hardcore reading fan. I wanted the story as it was meant to be on paper, not what it was bastardized into.
I
For film.
respect the shit out of that. As someone who did read the books as well,
Yeah.
I would say you're doing good. Stick with what you're doing.
Okay.
I was not
I
happy
hear
with it.
I hear snippets here and there about things that have happened. I'm like, that didn't happen, or like that didn't happen like that, or like, yeah, I don't know.
Did you catch up on the books?
No, like
Oh, okay.
I got to the fourth one and I was like, oh, I have to reread them all again. Like I fell so far behind, and then I just they're on my to be read shelf.
Because there was some
Tomorrow
really
one.
cool stuff that was left out of the show, and I was like, this could still have worked.
Yeah.
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 What do we got? Oh, Josh Mayne is here. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man.
Hello.
Brian Mannell stood in line for 10 hours to get tickets for Nine Inch Nails in 2018. Is that
right?
When did we watch them, Wendy? Wasn't it around the same time? 2018? 2017? Something like that. But yeah, they were amazing. And we didn't stand in line.
What?
Sorry.
The very first time I heard System of a Down, it was at your place in Sutton. Yeah.
Okay.
And I first didn't like them. Like I really didn't like them. I don't know why. But I listened to them more and more, and they really grew on me. And then in 2014 or 2015, I think, I tried to go see them. Like I got tickets. I went to Toronto, and I'm not from Toronto. I don't do big cities. I grew up in like a tiny town, 2,000 people most. So I'm in the city. I'm trying to navigate the subway. I don't know where I'm going. It's like 10 o'clock now. 11 o'clock is when they cut people off for concerts. I finally get down to the lakeshore, and we go in. They let us into the concert, and they play one song, and then they walk off stage. They didn't do an encore because their sound was messed up, and it was just like the worst experience.
You never got your money back or nothing?
No.
That's
so
frustrating.
maybe waiting in line for 10 hours is. I would rather do that and not get a ticket than show up to a concert and not even get an encore. It would have been okay if I got an encore and like saw a couple of songs, but
yeah.
Whatever.
Oh, that's some bullshit.
Yeah, it was sort of bullshit.
We saw them in 2002, and they were fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At the height of Chop Suey and everything. Oh yeah. It was
I saw
Um,
Slayer in like 2002, and they
oh,
were
dude,
pretty fucking good too.
I came really late to Slayer.
Yeah.
Yes, they were a lot of bands that you guys were listening to when we were all younger and heavier. I didn't get into until after I'd moved away and whatnot. So Slayer, South of Heaven, all that kind of stuff. Like holy shit,
Yeah.
Seasons in the Abyss is probably like one of my favorite songs. And then
Yeah.
was it Lamb of God? I didn't get
Hmm.
into until well after. Like you guys would listen to them, and I'm like, no, they're too heavy. And now I'm just like, no, they're just right.
Yeah. Right. It's interesting how our perceptions change.
Right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
how did I get older and then go, no, 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 this is good. So, yeah. Brian Mannell, I'm a fan of Star Wars only because of Knights of the Old Republic, the video game. That made me dive into the Star Wars a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's got so much. That's why I feel another thing why Star Wars is very fantasy based because of the
Hmm.
sheer amount of lore that it has. Um,
Right. It's almost like Lord of the Rings level.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. What do we? Oh yeah, Feast for Crows. Um,
That's it. Yeah. Not ravens. Gross.
We got Wendy says there's a couple songs that I would love to write stories based on the lyrics for. The Trees by Rush. Yeah, Rush has a couple. Like I would love to just sit down. I wanted to do it a while back. I wanted to make a role playing game based on the album 2112 and just like
Okay.
fucking right, have some fun with
Yeah.
that. Um. Oh, Brian Mannell's favorite fantasy pet is the Chocobos. I feel
Chocobo.
you.
Oh yeah, the
That's
chocobos
a
are
good
pretty
pick.
cool.
Chocobos are
Yeah.
Mogs. Yeah, actually, that's a good pick. That's a really good pick.
Hmm.
Oh, Wendy likes Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. Another good one.
He was pretty
Oh,
cute.
right. Sam's gonna bring us
Yeah.
back. Thank you, Sam. As we go off into music and pets and shit, Sam walks up and he goes, "This is about the writing, motherfuckers. Thank you." Besides fantasy, do you do horror?
I write a lot of horror.
I have to assume
Tons
as
of
well.
horror.
Yeah.
Love horror. If I'm not writing fantasy, I'm writing horror. And sometimes I write fantasy and horror together.
What's up, Flock? How you doing, bud? Yeah, no, dude, and that doesn't surprise me at all. And actually, I was never a horror guy, but I love the thriller act,
Hmm.
the yeah, just the thrill of it all and whatnot. Um,
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys who would say, like, for me personally, someone said, "What's your favorite horror movie?" And of course, everyone's like Nightmare on Elm Street and all this kind of shit. And I was like, I don't know, it's horror to me. Seven.
7.
Yeah, and I know it's technically a lot of people would fight me and say it's not horror, but I feel like it's got an awful lot of the horror aspects to it.
Okay. All right.
I I understand that it's not, but I feel like it has enough that that's what I would call it. And I love that style of we don't have everything doesn't have to be totally brutally fucked up for it to
Hmm.
still be
Yeah. That's
nicely
for
fucked
sure.
up. Yeah.
I feel like most of the horror I write is like a slow burn horror. Like it unfolds very slowly. Like it takes a while for it to really like sink in, and then you're like, holy shit! Like what the fuck did I just read? At least I hope anyway. That's my hope that people go what they leave with.
Well, it sounds like
So
if your beta reader's happy, then you're doing exactly what you're
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
do. So yeah, you should
I
be
wrote
fine.
I wrote it was a Halloween request from one of my Patreons called Mirror Mirror. And I plan on releasing it, but the premise essentially is this girl, her and her family live in this old house, and there's this mirror that her grandmother had and then gave down to her. Um, and in the mirror lives a demon. And it's just like this slow unfold of like this girl's love affair with this demon. But yeah.
So now we can get into the business a little bit because you mentioned Patreon. How's
Mhm.
Patreon treating you, and how do you feel about that process? Because of course, I've been more into the Kickstarter. You're more into this side. I would still call it all crowdfunding. What do you?
Yeah.
How are you feeling Patreon?
I have a very small following of very loyal followers. Can I say? Does that make sense?
Give us the number range, because small to one person, you don't have to say it's 12, but like, you could say less than 50
It
or
is.
whatever. Like,
It is less than 20.
okay.
Yep. Yep. So it's pretty small. It's petite. I
Yeah.
like it though. It's intimate because they do give me requests, and I have a lot of other projects going on as well. So keeping up with that, I find is very manageable.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah, I
it'd be
would
one of
not say
those
no to
things.
more Patreon. So
I know, right? It's one of those things where it's like, I'd
yeah,
love the money, but I don't know if I can handle the workload.
yeah, it's a lot of pressure. And when I first signed up for Patreon, and I put myself out there, and I was like, hey, if you want to stop reading my free stories on fan fiction, and you want to start paying me for stories that I'll write for you, like, it was really surreal for me for people to leave that platform where they got my writing for free about story, like about a story that they already liked, that they already knew they liked, and characters that they were already comfortable with, to come and read things that I was creating. Like, it was, it still blows my mind, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's wild.
No, I totally. Isn't that because we tend to, like, you write for the fans, but it's so much
Yeah.
easier when the fans are just a faceless blob, and you're like, I have an idea of the people
Yeah.
I want to excite, and so I'll write to that style of people. And then
Yeah.
suddenly they're in your fucking Patreon going, I want this, and you're like, you're not faceless anymore. I know you, and this is freaking me
Yeah.
out.
Right? Yeah, they're really great though. I love them.
Have you done many like conventions or anything like that?
I started doing conventions 2018. I went
Hmm.
to Aurelia Comic Con, which was a weird thing. It was the very first year they ever started doing a Comic Con in Aurelia. And it was like a Canada Day long weekend or something. So I was hoping for cottagers, and there were tons of cottagers. A lot of them were there for like the cosplay and that though. And I feel like that wasn't a great venue for me. I was also competing with some women that had like a plethora of steampunk romance novels under their belt, like just a couple tables down. And I was like, hey, I write dark fantasy that has like a smidge of romance. Like, come pay attention to me. I only have one book out, and my display looks kind of drab, but so that was a really interesting learning experience. After that, I did a festival in Peterborough where I had my shit a little more together, and I was a little bit more professional, and that was good. Um, I did one in Sunderland, which was another learning experience because there was like traditionally published authors there. And I had one author come up to me, and she's like, "Oh, this sounds like a really interesting book. Do you have a business card?" And I'm like, "Fuck no." Like, I didn't have shit. I didn't even have a pen. I had to use my husband's fountain pen. I don't know how to use a fountain pen. So I have business cards now. This is them. Let me see. Oh, there
Ooh,
we go.
oh, that's nice. I love that.
Yeah. So after that, I promptly went home and got business cards. Um, and then I did a festival here in my hometown, and that went really well. So I
Where,
sold a
if
lot
you
of,
don't,
yeah.
what is
Sorry?
your hometown right now?
Oh, Beaverton, Beaverton.
Oh, okay. They
So
had a festival
yeah,
in Beaverton for writing?
yeah. Well, no, it was vendors, like different vendors from
Okay.
Brock. Um, so it was like all kinds of people, like people that made like different kinds of art, or like people that knitted stuff, or like, they called it Brock's Big Bite. And so the first year was the last year I did that, because that was 2018, and then, or 2019, and then 2020 and 2021 was COVID and we didn't run it. So I'm hoping this year they'll start it up again and I can go back out.
That would be amazing. Tell me how that
Yeah.
goes, because that's just, I know Beaverton. That kind of blows my mind,
We're not so little anymore. I also want to try to
right?
get a table at Comic Con downtown. That's the dream. I feel like that's
Well,
probably more my audience, where my speed's
I
down there, but
yeah, I will tell you that my aim is I've mentioned this many times. Oh, I just lost someone. She's gone altogether. We'll wait. It'll just be us for a little bit until she shows back up. Um, I was talking about Toronto Comic Con. I'll say it again when she shows up. But for me, Toronto Comic Con. There she is. What
Hi.
happened there?
I have no idea. It just closed on me.
Oh, to me, like, everyone talks about San Diego Comic Con, like that is the, for me, it's Toronto Fan Expo. Like, that's the one.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
want to go home and just do the whole homecoming thing and
Yeah,
be
for
home.
sure.
So I'm with you. You know
You
what?
should bring your books and we'll share a table.
I was just gonna say that. We will share we will get a big fucking table and share it
Yes,
together. Yes, absolutely. Here,
definitely.
cheers.
Yeah, buddy.
Clink, yes. And actually, there's a bunch of people from our area who have gotten into writing. I always felt like, I'm sure anyone from a small town is like, my town sucks, everyone sucks. But we actually have some cool writers coming out of our area. Ben Cook has been working on stuff. He has
Yeah,
a comic
I
coming
saw
out,
that.
and he has a novel that he's been working on, which is just like fucking philosophically heady and huge. And
I can see that.
right? Did you know
Yeah.
James Down? He was in the same grade as me.
I feel like I knew it down. I don't know if
Yeah,
it
you
was
probably
James
knew
Down.
his little brother.
Yeah.
So James Down is actually a grim dark writer.
Okay.
Really, really fucking
Yep.
dark fantasy.
I feel
Worth
like
checking
my
his
stuff
shit out.
can be
Yeah, yeah, and
considered
he's
grimdark.
really good too. And I think actually he's
Yeah.
living out your way. No, he's in Kingston now. But yeah,
Yeah.
really dark stuff. So yeah, so the fantasy people, they kept up the writing, man. It did happen,
Yeah. Small towns are
uh,
good for something.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they make us want to be better. Like, just like,
Yeah.
I need to be better than working at the fucking Tim Hortons on the edge of Highway
Yeah.
48.
It's true.
Brian Mannell, are there any parts inherent to fantasy that feel tricky to write for you, or what are parts of writing fantasy that used to be decent obstacles for you that you now overcame?
I think with fantasy, the thing that I have difficulty with the most is working around the existing lore and incorporating that, like knowing when to incorporate that and when to branch off and go my own way.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
and that
like, sorry.
no, I mean, I was just gonna add that's the thing about fantasy. The lore is so huge and such a big part of it.
Yeah. And you can always find something like if you've thought of something or like you want direction with like a certain creature or something, there's always like all kinds of stuff on the internet to guide you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I had a writer that I was working with, and they had this really cool idea. They're like, but I can't do it. I said, why not?
Mhm.
They're like, oh, well, because of this. And I was like, what? Where did that happen? And they're like, oh, it's in my notes right here. And I'm like, oh, okay, that didn't fucking happen, so it doesn't have to fucking happen.
Yeah,
And they're
so
like,
it doesn't
what? So,
matter.
yeah. So I tell people all the time,
Yeah.
it's not canon until it's published.
Right? Yeah. I find that too
That's
with my own work. Like I'll be like, like 120 pages deep and I'm like, oh, but I want to do this, but this has to happen. So I can't do that. And if I do that, then that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, Kaitlin,
yeah,
that's not solid yet. Like you can change that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Editing sometimes
Yeah.
is painful.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot easier for me because usually I do the editing. I'm the one who gets to go
Yeah.
change that.
Yeah. It's true.
um,
I'm editing my final Hail series or book right now, and there's a whole part that I need to add, and it's been this one way for like a year and a half. This book has been finished,
yeah,
like loosely finished. Um, and I just now, like today, before we started this call, was like, oh fuck, I should do this. I should add this. and that will make the flow better.
Oh wow! Oh good. Oh, I'm glad that
Yeah,
showed up for you.
yeah.
J-
I'm sitting on it
Josh
for,
Mayne came on. Chuck's working more on his OnlyFans than his Patreon. Josh, it's not work if you love what you do. So no, I'm not working on it. That flows out of me and off of me and whatever.
Oh God.
Kyron says it's nice. I'm not sure what he was talking about.
Fun.
Josh wants me to stop kicking guests off the show. Josh, this is me, and she'll understand it because she works with nature. I was asserting my dominance. That's what it was. I was just being like, no, I'm in charge. Goodbye. Yeah, he said, you scared her off with your Beaverton jabs. Yeah, that was my bad. My bad. Are we supposed to be asking questions and not just shooting sarcastic comments? You can do both. It's okay.
Why not?
We can handle your shit.
To hear you razz Jeff.
Right? Speaking of sarcasm, there's our boy Steph. What's going on, buddy? That things are about to go down the toilet now that he showed up. He said, yeah, there's no good TV, so I'm here. We love you, you asshole. This is the good TV.
Yeah, I agree.
So now that the I know that you guys are still kind of in the pandemic and you're kind of slowly starting to get out of that. How do you see your convention table having evolved when next you're going to be in the convention setting? How different do you think it's going to be for you?
That's a good question. I imagine everything's going to be different, like capacity and like even how people interact with me now. Like how probably no one's gonna want to pick up my book and be like, oh, that's cool. Like after 10 other people have touched it, right?
Right.
That's interesting. I never thought of that, Charlie.
Well, but I also was thinking, but also just what have you done since the last time you did shows? How would that affect what your table looks like?
Oh, I've got like 10 other books now.
Yeah.
Like my table's gonna be full.
Do you feel like you're? Because I have a convention in a week and a half, and I have this big fucking thing filled with books, and I was like, nah, like I only have a section of a table. I can't bring them all, so now I had to like pare it down to like 5 or 6. Well, and Essence House just came in, which obviously didn't have before. Belial 2 should be at my house within the week. So I've got these new big things that are going to have to be on the table. And I'm like, so what makes the grade and what doesn't?
What makes the cut?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So far, I only have 4 books. Well, 3 and potentially 4 in January when it comes
4.
out. And,
I believe in you.
Let's say 4. I only have the 4, so as far as I'm concerned, I can bring them all and sell the Hill series as a trilogy, and hopefully people will buy all 3, and that doesn't deter them.
Now, in comics, we tend to do like the little floppies, like the monthlies or whatever, and then they turn into a trade paperback where you collect, say, 5 or so of them, and
like
then
a collection.
Yeah, and then you do a graphic novel. You have the trilogy. Are you thinking about doing like a box set or an omnibus or something like that?
I was thinking about doing a box set. I think it would be kind of cool though if I could, compress them all into one volume. It would be sort of neat. Yeah, I don't think I thought of that.
Yeah. Something to think about, something to consider.
Yeah.
Have you thought
of the box set is good?
Yeah.
Sorry?
No, I think that would be really good. Have you thought about doing something like a Kickstarter to do something like a box set or whatever?
I tried to navigate Kickstarter when I first started, and it was fucking hard. And I just said, whatever, I'll fund it myself.
It's scary.
It's scary, and like beyond that, the website, I was like, what is happening? It was really frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that it's a lot more user-friendly now. When were you trying to navigate it?
Oh, God, it was like 2015.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. way more user friendly now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a lot of fucking work, but it's way better than it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? What's like really scary about Kickstarter is that you have to be really on the social media side of things. Like you really have to push. And I find for me,
Hmm.
that is my biggest obstacle as a creator, as a writer, is just like putting myself out there and like advertising every day and being like, guys, you gotta buy this. Or like, guys, this is interesting. Or because I work on my writing every single day, but I don't think everything I do is super interesting. Like sometimes I'm just taking ands out of sentences,
You
right?
know, yeah. I mean, you're in your own head. I would say it's not about, and I have to tell people this all the time. It's not about you. It's not about what
Hmm.
you're excited about. It's what you
Yeah.
think fans might be excited about. So it's all about kind of going, hey, if you like this or this, I think you're gonna like that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Or we
Yeah.
did this really cool. We had this really cool moment. It's a little harder with novels. Like obviously with comics, I can show a page off. I can show a cover off. I can show something like that, and they're just like, whoa. So yeah, but
My
I mean,
friends
you can
have,
even show like excerpts.
yeah. I think it's really interesting with comics because people are a lot more um they're a lot more interested in interacting with like the photo. Like I don't know what it is, but I guess like maybe it's more catchy for them, like they'll see a photo
Hmm.
and they'll be like, oh, this is awesome. But my friend and I, like on the down low, we're actually working on a webtoon right now.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, so kind of this is the first time I've delved into this kind of media. And I'm not the artist, obviously, I'm the writer, but she makes really awesome stuff. So I'm hoping that we'll have the first chapter out in probably a couple of months. Um, yeah, so I'm really excited. It's going to be another dark fantasy. It's based in like a futuristic, well, not really futuristic. It's a contemporary um, fantasy. Yeah,
It's more modern.
yeah, but it's based in a world where demons overrun the world, and like everyone just kind of knows this and accepts it, and they can't go out after dark, and like yeah, and like humans have just kind of like built their lives around this obstacle. So I'm
Well,
really
let me
looking forward
know
to it.
because I'll share the fuck out of it.
Yeah, I will for sure.
And if you need any help or you have any questions or whatnot, please. I mean, that's my world.
Absolutely.
So if there's
Yeah.
anything, I would love to help in any way. Um, Brian Mannell, do you have any so bad it's good fantasy stories?
So, oh.
Like the B movie version of fantasy.
Um, fantasy. Oh my God. Do I? I don't know. Not that I can think. Oh, well, maybe there was this one book by a debut author. I think it was called Delirium or something. And it was just like, it was a train wreck and I couldn't put it down, but it was just so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you just kind of get stuck and you're like, I have to see how they try to write their way out of this because there's no possible way. Like,
but you're almost like if you do a follow up, I gotta read it because
yeah, like I'm committed. Oh, and you know what? I didn't write, I read one very recently that was by another debut author. And I find most fantasies, when it's the debut authors, like the book should be under 80,000 words for traditional publishing. I don't know if it should be, but like typically it is. They won't accept anything that's over 80,000 words because it's too much of a risk. But this one was like, it was like 200,000 words, and it was set in 1920s China. It was like Shanghai, and like the premise was really awesome. But then they tried to spin it as like a Romeo and Juliet story, and then they added this creature, and there was like bugs in it, and like I like bugs. Everyone knows I like bugs now, but I'm like this isn't plausible. But I had to finish it. It was just like I couldn't stop. It was just a
Like
train wreck.
you go to Amazon, you're just like, you need to fucking research.
I actually even wrote a review on Goodreads. That's how upset I was. Because I love 1920s culture. I love bugs. I love Romeo and Juliet. Like, this should have been a trifecta, right?
Yeah,
Maybe I just had like too high standards. I don't know. Yeah,
maybe you weren't drinking enough while you were reading.
maybe that's possible.
Wendy suggested that we have a small sample of the book with laminated pages for people to flip through. And then you can
Yeah,
wipe the pages after each person touches it, have
that's
gloves
a good
available.
idea. Wendy,
Yeah,
you're an idea house.
that's not a bad idea at all.
Hmm.
Kyron said Essence and Bilal needs to be on my table no matter what. Yes, they will be. Don't you worry. I have it nailed down. For those of you who know me, it's Welcome to the Void, Bilal 1 and 2, Essence House, Cat Dad and Supermom, so that I have something for the kiddies, and then Cthulhu Invades Oz, because that's just such a beautiful, amazing book. And we worked with so many awesome people, and it's fucking huge. It's like a 160-page graphic novel. So
Wow,
I can sell it for a lot of money. And there's something about being able to sell a book and make half your table off of selling one book that just excites the
that's
fuck out of me.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
To have like a huge
That is great.
$60 hardcover graphic novel, sell that, and all right, I paid for half my table. Great. Like I might not even sell it, but if I sell one, that makes the day.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
full outbreak suits. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Or cosplay as Vader. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
What sort of themes do you like to explore with your writing?
I'm always kind of pushing the envelope, I feel. I'm always I'm exploring a lot of LGBT plus issues, I feel. A lot of family dynamic, um, a lot of acceptance issues, and just even self-awareness, I find,
Yeah.
is a very common theme in all my writing.
Steph, I was paying attention to the chat, and then you showed up, and I was like, I do not want to see the fucking dumpster fire that is now my chat. I had to catch up. I have a guest here. She's a special lady. She's an old friend. I had to talk to her first. I'll catch up to you guys. And yes, a Chuck Funko Pop would be awesome. I'm
Oh.
I'm just egotistical enough that I would totally be cool with that. What else do we have going on? So many. Holy shit. There is a lot of people talking. You guys are fucking nuts.
Oh.
Wow. What's with people are like, what's with the real questions? What will the webtoons be about? Well, she told us. Or did you tell us about what the webtoon?
I think very briefly. It follows the story of a girl who she's a demon hunter and she comes to a new city to start her own business hunting demons, and there's a lot of competition in this city.
Yeah.
It's for whatever reason, I'm not going to tell you. I know the reason. I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
The demons here are a lot more prevalent. They're a lot stronger, a lot more vicious. So she starts hunting in the city, and she realizes that she's in like way over her head, and she's just scraping the top of like this den of evil that's become this once very prosperous city. Yeah.
That sounds cool. I will definitely check that out, and we will definitely show that off. On average, how long does it take for you to finish a story from concept to finished product?
To finish product. Oh. It varies a lot. When I first started the abolition, I wrote the whole story, like 280,000 words. I wrote in a month, 1 month, and then I edited it for 3 years. And
Oh
then the
wow.
Reformation, yeah, the Reformation was, I cut that time to 2 years. And then the final story, Madeline's story, I started writing probably about a year and a half ago, and I'm just about through with it now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm slowly, I'm whittling away. I'm getting faster. I hope that it will be a year from start to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good, especially having another full-time job and everything. Like,
Yeah.
geez.
Yeah.
Okay. Back off my wife, buddy. Back the fuck off. You've got your own lady. All right. So you've already kind of answered this, but are there any other mediums that you'd like to explore now that you've done novel and now that you're about to sink your teeth into webtoons? Are there any other mediums you want to play with?
I'm really ambitious and I kind of want to have something animated. My brother-in-law does, uh, he does film and his friend does programming. So,
Yeah.
and they've expressed an interest in helping me kind of bring that to life. Um, so I would like to do that. I don't imagine it would be anything like He-Man quality, but
Yeah.
yeah. But I think it would be really cool, one day.
I
Have
agree
like
with
kind
you.
of animated. Yeah.
I feel the
Yeah.
same way. It's partly why we did Belial the way we did, is because we
Hmm.
would love to see it turn into like an Adult Swim style TV show or something.
Yeah. Right. That's the dream.
Right? Alex, good to see you too, hon. Hope you're doing good. We miss you as well. I'm sure Wendy does. I do too. Um, maybe settle for a Chuck bobblehead. I could do it. I say yes to your shit often enough that I should be a fucking bobblehead. Is there a writer you would like to work with in the future?
Like an already published author,
They don't have to
or
be.
um, how do I say this without coming off? I don't know. Yes, I would like to work with Brenna Yovanoff. Realistically, like that would be my dream.
Hmm.
Realistically, though, I feel I don't like waiting for people. I
Yeah.
don't like I write every single day, whether inspiration strikes or not. If I'm not inspired, I write my way into being inspired. And that's why I end up often with 280,000 words in a manuscript that only needs to be 80,000. Um, so I cut a lot. And I find a lot of people wait to be inspired to write. And that's totally fine. Like it's all about your process, right? Um,
But you wouldn't work well with those people.
with those,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So, um, my husband and I are talking about collaborating on a story. Currently, it's very infantile at the moment. Um, I don't know if that'll work out. We'll see.
How how do you feel about that? Because you're kind of able to. You get to be the one who's like, hey, yeah, your idea is not bad, but remember, I'm the published author here, all right? So
Yeah.
you get to be a little more dominant in that aspect.
Right? Yeah. Oh, he has good ideas. I think he's
Oh, I'm sure.
he's he's the idea factory a lot of the time. Yeah, like I could probably be a little bit malleable, a little,
Yeah.
but yeah. At the
Yeah.
end of the day,
Steph, he's expecting a lot of us to hang out in his booth. I'll be right there, buddy. I'll be your booth babe. I'll get some Daisy Dukes and tie my shirt up and start handing out your little your titty covers. It'll be great, dude. He called me an alleged author. Boom. Cool. So why don't you tell us, as we start to wind down the show, why don't you tell us where we can find you online, where we can find your stuff?
Yeah. I have all my stuff posted to Amazon under author Kaitlin Corvus, Corvus, like the Raven. I am on Twitter, Kaitlin Corvus, as well as Kaitlin Corvus, all one word. I'm on Facebook. Again, my Facebook page is Kaitlin Corvus. It's pretty the same, pretty uniform. The only other place I have a platform is Patreon. I have all the links to that on my Twitter, actually.
Okay.
Or you can find me on Instagram, and that's Kaitlin.Corvus.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So
thank you so much for coming on.
thank you.
I really
It was a
appreciate it.
blast.
Yeah, man, dude, it was really great seeing you again. It was good having you on. It was nice to be able to see your path as it came, and as you're out there and you're just making more and more stuff, and I'm just super excited to continue to watch and see how it goes. So thank you, and I want to also thank you because on 2 of my campaigns you have been great enough and generous enough to show off your novels. So
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to say thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing for us. We really appreciated it, and I'm sure the
My
fans
pleasure.
loved it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime.
All right, gang, if you want to talk shit, I'm going to be here again next week. I'm going to keep up with it. 31 episodes so far. I've handled it this long. I can keep it up. Guys, thank you guys so much. Wendy says, good to see you. Congrats on all the success. And we are.
Nice to talk to you, sort of.
We're all so super happy and proud of you, hon. You've done great.
No, thank you.
Keep it up. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thank you so much. We really appreciated you guys having out. Yes, she was a great guest. The host is always man. You knew coming in to stop your shit. You knew that coming in. Thank you. Yeah, I know, right? He doesn't hide shit. No, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you all so much. You know me. My name's Chuck. I give a fuck. We'll see you next week. Let's have a good one.